to the books of history. Joshua chapters 1 through 11 recount Israel's occupation of Canaan. God promises that he would never fail or forsake Joshua and commands that Joshua be obedient. When the Israelites arrive at the Jordan River on the eastern border, the waters part, allowing them to cross. They capture Jericho after they march around that city 7 times. An initial attempt to capture Ai follows. It fails because of disobedience, but after a while they are able to capture Ai as well. Joshua is tricked into making a covenant with the people of Gibeon in central Canaan, but captures the southern part of the country by defeating a coalition of kings. Chapters 12 through 24 tells how territory was assigned to the tribes. After Joshua describes the boundaries of tribal territory, he calls Israel to renew their covenant with God. He reminds them of God's faithfulness and says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Joshua is set up a stone monument at Shechem to remind Israel of their covenant with God. That brings us to the book of Judges. 1 and 2 shows that Israel's relation to God follow a cycle. Number 1, the people worship the gods of other nations. 2, God allows other nations to oppress Israel. And 3, the people return back to a right relationship with God. Now, let's look, if you would, at chapters 3 through 16. It recalls the exploits of the Israel's judges. Deborah organizes the Israelites to fight against the Canaanites who have invaded from the north. A sudden rainstorm, chariots of the Canaanites get stuck in mud so that the Israelites are able to prevail. They defeat the Midianites by blowing trumpets and smashing jars and waving torches. Gideon's men rout the enemy. Jephthah, another judge, was an outcast who led the Israelites to victory over the Ammonites from the east. But a rash vow bound him to sacrifice his own daughter. Samson was a strong man who led raids against the Philistines. He loved the Philistine woman. And of course, this is the story of Samson and Delilah. Chapter 17 through 21 recounts a civil war in Israel. The Israelites turned from battling other nations to fighting each other. An incident of rape and murder lead to a civil war that nearly destroys the tribe of Benjamin. When every man does right in his own eyes, the result is violence. 21 and 25. There is a small book here called Ruth, an Israelite woman named Naomi moves from Bethlehem to Moab to escape a famine. There, her 2 sons marry Moabite women. When her husbands and sons die, she decides to return to Bethlehem. One of her daughter-in-laws, Ruth, decides to return with her. The women arrive in Bethlehem during the grain harvest. Ruth works in the fields of her kinsman Boaz, who is a distant relative of Naomi. Boaz instructs his workers to treat Ruth kindly, and Naomi tells Ruth to meet Boaz at the threshing floor. She ends up marrying Boaz, and they become the great-great-grandparents of David, the king of Israel.